Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. Today we're talking about how to use segments in Google Analytics. Now, of course, if this is your first workshop, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at MeasurementMarketing.io. And whether you found us through our partners at Digital Marketer, maybe even CXL Institute, maybe you came through Social Media Examiner, or maybe you're already a member of MeasurementMarketing.io and taking our training and courses over there, welcome. We appreciate you being here. Our main job, of course, is to help marketers just like you figure out how to use these tools like Analytics and Tag Manager, Data Studio, and others. And we do that using the Measurement Marketing Framework. Now, I'm going to cover this kind of quickly because it does relate to today's training. So planning is where you think through what questions do you want to answer, what information will you need to get those answers, and ultimately, most importantly, what actions will you take based on those answers. And of course, segments will help us to do that because you can segment out your data. We're going to show you how to do that. Now, in the building part of thing, that's actually where you're setting up things like Tag Manager, just making sure everything's stored properly in Google Analytics. Then there's the reporting. Now, in the reporting phase of things, we're actually building out your dashboards, or maybe you're using spreadsheets, or maybe you're just using the reports in Google Analytics, which we will show you today. You will use segments from time to time. They're an incredibly useful tool in Google Analytics. And of course, once you have your basic reporting down, you can start to forecast. You can start to do what we call marketing forward, where you actually are looking forward at what your forecasts are and you're measuring against your forecasts. So you're not looking at your past data to see kind of what happened. You're measuring against your forecast. So you know exactly what's working and what's not. And that's where the optimization part of things kicks in. And it becomes a whole lot easier to know what's working and what's not based upon that measurement. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and move forward. Now, with all of these trainings, just focus on one thing, one new idea. That's all we're trying to do as we go through these different workshops, especially with a newer topic. So if you're not used to Google Analytics, if you're just getting started, segments are something that is, you move into segments. First, you'll learn the basics of stuff, and then you move into segments. So as you learn this, you're going to see some new things. Don't try to do everything at once. Just pick one new thing, practice that. Then you're going to come back, rewatch this. We are going to make this particular workshop public, so you can come back and rewatch this, and then you can pick up another new thing after that and improve your skills. All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Beyond Basics, how to use segments in Google Analytics. Now, we're just going to jump right in like we often do with these workshops. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up, let's see here. I'm going to pull up our Google Analytics. And as we do that, so this is our Google Analytics. This is the demo account that's available in Google Analytics. So what we're going to do is I want to talk about what segments actually are and why you use them first. So when you first come into the home screen, this is an okay area in Google Analytics, but you're probably not using this that often. You're more than likely coming into something else like, I don't know, let's go into conversions. We want to see what the results of all of our actions are. So we might take a look at product performance. And we might want to see, okay, what products are we selling? So most reports in Google Analytics, you'll have your sort of basic table reports that you'll see. You could also do that with source medium traffic and things like that. Again, I'll show you that in just a few minutes here. But at the top of these reports, you see this. You see all users, which is the default, and then you see add segment. This is segmentation. Now, why would we want to do this? Because this is a kind of a sum total during this particular date range. This is the sum total of everything that's happened with every single user. But sometimes you don't want to know about every single user all the time. You're asking a question about a specific group of users, hence a segment, right? You're using a segment of users. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this little segmentation thing. So when you click on segment, I'm going to click first where it says system, because this is the one that you have. When you come into your Google Analytics, you're going to go into segment, you're going to click system, you'll see exactly these. These are the built-in ones. These are the ones that come pre-installed with Google Analytics. And as you hover over them, you can see what it means. So it's actually giving you the definitions of how that segment was built. So if you ever have a question or everything, you can hover over it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate, in this case, not even building a segment. We're just using a built-in segment. So we're activating a segment, and this segment is we're going to do search traffic. So that is anything that is matching that particular regex, right? So it's anything. Now this is important. Notice how this is defined, and this is why this is a Beyond Basics. So if you aren't familiar with regex or things like that, we have Win regex, Win regular expressions back in our members area. So if you're a Win monthly pass member or an Academy member, you can take advantage of that. But I will briefly explain what regex is, what this basically means. This, you would think that this is saying, okay, I'm going to just pull in my organic traffic because that's quote unquote search traffic. And that's what you're thinking it is. But when you hover over this, and unfortunately I can't quite do two things at the same time, you're just gonna have to look in that little box there where it says medium matches regex and then a bunch of symbols. What this is telling you is if the medium of the source of traffic, if the type of traffic coming through is either CPC, PPC, CPA, CPM, CPV, CPP, or organic, right? If it's any of those or organic. So that means it's a lot of paid traffic coming through into this particular segment. So just first word of warning is, okay, search traffic, it means also paid traffic in the built-in. And that's how you can tell. That's why you hover over these and you TBV it, right? You might have heard TBV before from us. It means trust but verify. So you never just assume that this is going to be the thing. You always want to sort of triple check, right? Trust but verify, TBV, that this is the thing that you're looking at. So in this case, now we know we're basically not looking at organic traffic. We're looking at CPC, paid traffic sources. We might have some Facebook traffic that we're UTMing as CPC traffic. That's going to show in here. So take these with a grain of salt and just go slow. I'm going to activate it just to show you we're going to baby step into this stuff. So here's search traffic. So now we go from 922 and all of these different things, again, during this little date range here. And what I'm going to do, there's my little search traffic thing. I'm just going to apply that segment. Now it's up here, but it's not applied yet. So we're going to apply it. Okay, that's the official activation of this thing, is applying the segment. And now you see we have we've split everything up. So now we've got all users and search traffic. Why do we have it broken down like that? Because we have both segments. Now here's a little pro tip. If you don't want to see, and I think in the beginning when you're starting out, it's much, much easier just to look at the one thing you want to see and not try to compare a bunch of different segments because it's tough. You can do it for sure, and you will eventually. But when you're just starting out with this stuff, it's better to just look at the one segment you want. So you can just drag and drop this out of the way. So when we do that, it'll then all of a sudden default to just search traffic. So now we're looking at 52% of our revenue is coming from search traffic. Now, of course, that number drops to 922, but what am I looking at? I'm looking at just search traffic. This reminds me about that. Instead of saying all users, it says search traffic. So I know I'm looking at just my search traffic here. Now remember, not organic, not just organic, and that's kind of a problem with the built-in segment, which is actually really useful for me right now because I get to show you how to build your own. So we're going to go into segment. Now let me know that this one is not quite what we're looking for in terms of search. Let's build our own. So we're going to go to new segment. Now when we do that, now you can kind of customize and do whatever you want here, right? And literally anything that's in Google Analytics, you can make a segment out of it. So I'm going to show you a couple things. First is we're going to name this, I'm going to call it organic only. Okay, so it's organic only traffic, just to keep with our little search traffic thing here. The other good thing about using traffic in both of these is you can search later for all segments that contain traffic, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So organic only traffic is what we're going to call this one. And then where would we find that? Now we can build a segment out of demographic information. In this case, don't need to. I can build it out of the technology stuff. You can see all the different things I can make a segment out of. In this case, I don't need to. I'm not asking questions about that. I can do it for behavior, number of sessions they've had or transactions. In this case, again, I don't need to. It doesn't help me to answer the question I'm trying to answer, which is what is my organic traffic buying, right? What sales are coming from organic traffic? So would I use data for a session? Nope, doesn't help me at all. But what does help me is traffic sources. So in this case, I've got traffic sources and I've got medium contains, and in this case, I'm going to do organic. So now, and that is exactly what should, unless you've somehow customized this otherwise, by default, which is 99.999% of you, it's going to be organic. Medium contains organic. That means search traffic. That's what that means. So now we've got organic only traffic, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. And to be fair, I would think this search traffic, even though it contains some paid traffic in there, it's probably still the majority organic. But I would expect this number to go down a little bit because that would sort of help me to really know, okay, yeah, this is just organic. There should be a difference between the amount in this segment and the amount in that segment. So now what we're going to do is we're going to save this segment. Now, when we save this segment, it will automatically be applied. All right, so we don't have to have that little apply button because it's not an existing segment. It's a new one that we just created. So we're going to click on where it says save. Now, when we have that, we will now see two. So we've got search traffic and we've got organic traffic. Now, in this case, I'm actually seeing exactly the same thing. So I'm going to trust but verify two things. I want to trust but verify that CPC is even in here. There we go. It's a little different. All I did, this is all I'm looking for. So they're probably just not doing a ton of paid traffic in this particular case, but you see there's already a difference, 62.82, 63.27. So as I'm coming through here, that's what I'm looking at now. I'll tell you, here's what I'm noticing. Here's what I would not expect. And this is why I'm going to question segments really quick here. And I'm going to go in and look at this built-in segment. This is also a reason I do not use built-in segments. So this shows 4157, and it should include organic, but this shows 4186, and it does include organic. That's weird for me. So, because if anything, this one should be smaller than this one. So I'm just going to take a look at this, and I'm going to click back in. The problem with this is if I go back to, and I'm going to show you how I do the search. So you can come up here to the search box, type in traffic, and you'll see just traffic stuff. So this is everything that contains the word traffic, including built-ins and the ones that you have. So as I come over here, I see medium matches regex that start with either CPC, PPC, or CPA, or CPM, or CPV, or CPP, or organic. And that still looks like that's going to contain too much to me. So but I'm not trusting it. There's something off with that. So I personally do not use built-in segments because of this. Because the problem is, and here's the drawback of it, and this is exactly the same journey I go through every time with segments. I can't change this. So, as I can't edit it. I can't do anything for it. It just shows me that's what it is. Maybe that's really what it is. It should be that's what it is, but something's off here. And I can't see it. And I don't like black boxes. I like things I can control. So I'm going to come in here. And I have my organic only traffic. You can see we've done this a bunch of different times, but I've got my organic only traffic. Now, if I was concerned about this one where it says medium contains organic, okay, now that could be potentially the fact that organic, it could say like organic dash booking could be the medium. Well, that would contain organic. And so maybe I've got some extra traffic coming in here, but I can go in and I can change it. So now you see where it says edit. That's why I personally recommend you build all your segments and you do not use built-ins, because you're going to see these issues that you cannot necessarily explain. And honestly, I don't think you even can ever explain it because you can't get into it to see the specifics. So here, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say matches regex. Actually, I'm going to switch this to exactly matches organic because that should be equivalent the same. And I'm going to look over here to see what happens with our users. So see this little users thing? This is kind of a nice thing with segments. It gives you an idea of what percentage you're looking at already. So here I've got 43,649 users, 56,000 and some change sessions with exactly matches. If I flip this to contains, that number probably is going to go up. No, it doesn't. And it shouldn't. I wouldn't expect it to. So that looks like the same. So this should just be organic traffic, and that's it. That's all it should ever be is organic traffic. So I'm going to click on save there because that really should be it. And now we're going to, that'll change this definition. And now I'm going to get rid of this. Now I could just drag and drop it out of the way, but you can also click here and you'll see other options depending if they're built in or not. You see this one just has copy and remove. I can't edit it because it's a built-in. This one though, I have edit, I can copy it, I can remove it, and I can share it with others if I want. So we're going to go ahead and remove this one, get it out of the way. And that's just because I trust this one a little bit more because I can define this one. I know exactly how it's working. If I need to change it later, I can. Which again is why I recommend that instead of coming in here and using any of these built-in ones, you come in here and you rebuild it. You come in, you click on new segment and you build it. Now you just have to build it once you save it, despite what you saw with mine. We teach this stuff all the time. So I'm always showing people how to build these. So once I build the one organic only traffic, I can keep that one. It's saved, in my Google Analytics. So I don't have to come back over and over and rebuild it. But if things changed, if one day Google decides to change organic to also, maybe all of a sudden they change the medium to search coming through one day. Well, then I can come into the segment and change it and say, well, if it contains organic or if it contains search, then go ahead and do this, right? So there's some cool things that you can do with this. And that's, again, a huge benefit to being able to build segments on your own, and not to mention just the fact that you're going to need that skill anyway, so take advantage of it. The sooner you make that jump, the better. So again, now you can build segments multiple ways. Now I'm going to show you how I really build segments, how we actually do it, how I recommend that you do it. We already talked about all these different sort of wizards that you can use to come through here, right? They have these little help wizards that you can set up your different stuff. Notice that, and this is kind of a confusing thing for me, but I get that, not every single thing is available in Google Analytics, is available in one of these wizards. I do not know why they chose to miss one of the major traffic tags. So remember, there are 5 different things you can UTM. You can UTM your source, you can UTM your medium, you can UTM your campaign. Those are the big 3. But then you also have your term, which shows up as keyword, and you have your content, which doesn't show up at all here. So if I wanted to build a segment of something with ad content, I can't do it. So what do? That's where we start here in conditions. Now, I'm going to quickly, you see enhanced e-commerce, same thing. You can do all of this stuff with e-commerce if you wanted to do that as well, if that's helping you to sort of selectively see a group that you want to take a little bit more analysis of. But when I click on conditions here, I can go in and I can see everything that Google Analytics has in its database, including things like ad content. So there's my ad content. So I go ad content contains, and then whatever I want it to contain. So when I do a segment, and I'm actually going to cancel out of this, and I'm going to show you how to edit a segment as we go through here, take advantage of this. I'm going to edit this, and instead of defining it, which again, I don't think there's anything wrong with this particular one because it's pretty much exactly what we want, but I just don't do that. I skip all of these. I recommend you get used to doing that too because the flexibility is down here, right, in these sections. So I'm going to go to conditions. all I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, and this is where it gets useful. Filter sessions, and this is probably, to be honest, why we saw this little this difference in the segments before. One was for sessions, one was for users, right? This one's defaulted to filter users that contain organic, but maybe I don't want users that contain organic because I can duplicate users. I want to see sessions that contain organic traffic for every visit that came from organic. I don't care about the user that came from organic. I care about the visit that came from organic. And that was probably causing, to be honest, the difference between those two numbers I saw before. But again, I can't see that in the built-in, the one that they did built in that system one. So instead, I'm going to come in conditions because here is very, very simple to see the story. Even though it's under advanced, it's not that much more advanced. So I want you to practice getting into this. And the only reason I didn't start here is because I kind of wanted you to see the journey of why you're going to end up here anyway, because you're going to have these weird, frustrating things that are going to happen that you can't quite explain, and that will be very, very difficult for you to ever explain because you can't quite get into all the nooks and crannies. But this, right here in this little advanced section, you can totally get into the nooks and crannies. So let's start. So we're going to filter sessions. First of all, I can do sessions or users. Now, this is the trick between these. If I filter sessions, and then you can include or exclude, whichever one you want. So it's going to default to sessions and include. This is the most useful one, the one you're going to use most of the time. So if I go to sessions include, what I'm telling Google Analytics is to go back and find me all of the visits, right? All of the sessions, and include all of those during this date range that match whatever these conditions are. And when I say this date range, it's whatever the date range is up here, right? It just happens to be March 2nd to February 7th, or sorry, February 2nd to March 17th here. So it's include all of the visits that happened between this date range that match these conditions. That's what this is. Now, if I flip this to users, here's what's kind of interesting. It's basically saying, go find me all of the users who within the past 90 days have matched this condition and have also shown up during this period of time. So it's different and it's subtle because you would think, oh, I want to see the users that show up here. But let's pretend for a second a user, let's pretend I'm going to actually set this up with organic traffic. So we're going to do medium, and then we're going to say contains organic. That should totally work. And it should, in theory, give us that number we were looking for before. So we're going to let that calculate here. This is important. So you can see sessions went down just a little bit here. Interesting. So sessions to include medium, contain, organic, right? That's what we're looking for. So this is the number of visits, pure visits, that during this particular date range contained the organic traffic that came from organic traffic. If I flip this to users, what this is saying now, so what Google Analytics is saying, you see, this is why it changed. See that now we're back to that 56,587. What this is saying is a user could have come from organic traffic on February 1st. Okay, follow me here. They could have come through on February 1st, but we're looking at February 2nd on this date. So why would they show up in this segment? Why would they be in here? Well, maybe they visited the site on February 2nd or February 3rd or February 5th or March 5th. And as long as they had that February 1st condition, as long as they're a user that had that, they're going to show up in the segment if they visited the site during this period of time. So hopefully that makes sense. It takes a little bit to wrap your head around this, but that's why sessions is the default. That's why you will most likely use sessions when you're doing this. So we're going to include sessions that where the medium contains organic. This is the right number. And we know it's the right number because we have very clearly defined everything. We've defined sessions. We are including sessions, including visits during this date range where the medium started that session. The traffic source was organic traffic only. So that's going to be a search engine. So we're going to just save this now. I don't have to change the name or anything. So we're just going to save it because now I have a better definition. Now I can come down and actually look at my report. Totally different number here that I got. And this is why sessions confuse people because they try to use different built-in sessions and they try to build a session through this other wizard. And I don't recommend you do that because it will lead to confusion. Right? You saw how quickly I saw two different numbers back there when it was reality. It's supposed to show me the same thing, but they don't quite make sense. And that's because some of them are user focused and some of them are, pulling in other stuff besides organic. And the only way, in my opinion, to really, really nail this thing down, and I'm going to edit this again, is to come in and go in advanced conditions. So when you see advanced conditions, you've got it. Right? Because you know every single puzzle piece because you put them there. You understand how this thing works. Now, you can continue to add on different filters if you want. So I could say, well, sessions that include this and then users that originally came from that or whatever. So you can sort of mix and match. And you can also build a very specific filter where I can say, well, the medium contains organic, but maybe I want Google organic traffic only. So then I would say and then you can come here and say source. and then contains Google, right? One way to do it. Obviously, you could use Source Medium as well, but that's how I would do Google organic traffic. So, and see it drop just a little bit, because obviously Google's merchandise store is probably getting most of the traffic from Google themselves. So that's how you can do that. And again, you kind of play with this. Now, the final thing I wanted to show you around segments is the idea of sequences, and then we'll take off. You can go back and practice now. So you've got conditions and you've got sequences. Now, the difference is I'm actually going to start this off just so you can see the difference here. So include sessions, and I'm going to flip back and forth. So sessions include, right? Just flipping how those are. So now it's going to be include sessions, which technically makes more sense if you're thinking about a story here. So we're going to include sessions that either are the first user interaction or any. I would recommend you stick with any. It's the default. It's going to be the most useful. So this is what you're going to most likely keep it to 99.99% of the time, unless you're excluding an audience, which sometimes you'll obviously want to do. Then I'm going to say step one, and watch what happens to this number when I do this. Step one is I'm going to say medium, and we're going to say contains, and we're going to say, guess what, organic, because that's what we're doing. So medium contains organic. So now watch happens. What happens? Nothing happens to this number. Why? Well, what the difference is here is a condition is the one thing that has to be true, okay, or things, if I do different things, right? They all have to be true. That's what this is. A sequence is a series of conditions in order, which is really cool. Step one, step two, step three. So what this does, this is technically what I'm doing this one step. I'm going to erase these right here. This, just a one step sequence is the same thing as a condition, right? They are exactly the same thing right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to X this out, but instead of Xing it out here, which I totally could do, I just want to show you, you can also X it out here. So we see this, it kind of has a little definition of what's going on, a little cheat sheet that maybe you didn't notice down here. Well, I want to get rid of this condition. I don't need it anymore because I'm building the same thing in a sequence. I'm going to X this out and watch this number because we expect it to be exactly the same, and it is. Okay, so now we're going to come in. We're going to come in here. Yep, exactly the same. So now we go to sequences. So again, condition in order. That's all this is, conditions in a certain order. So now maybe I want to see people that came in from organic, and then they saw a landing page that contained home, right? Let's make the home page. Let's see what happens. So now when we X out of this, we're going to see that this radically drops because now we're seeing people who were organic traffic, but then started their session, because we're including sessions. So the step ones came in from organic traffic. Step two, the landing page was a home page, was the actual home page. And then when we click on save, I would obviously change the name in that case, but I can click on save and I would have a much lower number here. But again, it would be the users who came into the homepage. And so now I can answer questions about that if that's the group that I'm asking questions about. So that's just some examples, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it like this for now. We're going to click on save because this is the exact definition that I want. But hopefully in just this little tour of segments, you've got some ideas of how you can slice and dice. And the whole point of this was really focused on your planning and your reporting. Because when you're planning to ask when you're working with either yourself or with your stakeholders or with your clients or with your boss, and they're asking you to answer certain questions, a lot of times it's about a group of people or a segment of individuals. And so you need to be able to build a segment. And again, I would click on add segment. I would go to new segment. This is exactly what I do. I go to add, and again, unless it's something that I want to turn back on, right? Or use an existing one. And just to show you where that is, very simple, but I want to show it to you anyway. You can go to custom. You see custom, this is all the custom ones that you create. So shared are the ones that are shared with you. Stars are the ones that you put little stars by if you want. And then selected are the ones that are actually currently active. So that's kind of what that is. I never use system. And again, I think you saw a really good example of why I don't do that. 'Cause it's kind of a drawback because you can't get into it and you can't see it. So it says sessions greater than one, but and it says users, right? Or multi-session users. So you assume it's user-based, but maybe I don't know. Like it's this stuff. It's a little harder to see in its black box. So it's more difficult to fix or explain to others if you're using a built-in. If you use one of your custom segments, right, a new segment, then you can actually explain it because you're the one that put it there. And when you do a new segment, I would personally, and we do as a company, we avoid using these because again, they just they help you, but is this session based or user based, right? Can't really. It says user sessions, but then this one, when you come in the traffic source, is this default to users. So it's like, okay, wait a second, this one was sessions, but this one's users, and it's hard. You really have to remember what's going on here. Whereas if you come to conditions or if you come to sequences, it's very simple because it just tells you sessions include, and you decide this. You're the one that puts the puzzle pieces in place, makes it 1,000 times easier to use segments, to trust your numbers because you built the segment, because you're the one that put the puzzle pieces there. You're the one that built that little filter, or that segment, I should say, or sequence if you're building a sequence in here. It's also perfect for funnel tracking. So for those of you who are thinking like, how do I build a funnel in Google Analytics and I don't want to use the funnel report, but you want to have a different type of funnel, one that includes events. As an example, and we're using the demo account for Google Analytics, so we won't be able to do this exactly. But I'm going to say, okay, well, we're going to do page. So if I do page here, so we're going to, where is page? Page is always the hardest one to find when you're back here. Oop, page space, that's why. So it's just page. There we go. So page contains /home. And then, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Sorry, I'm going to do a sequence because this is exactly how I would do a funnel. So we say page contains /home. And then, here we go. We'll do this version of home. Then we go to an add step, and then check this out. We can do action, and there's event action. So maybe it's action. And again, I don't think this is going to work with Google, but well, here's some. So quick view click. And then they had another action that was maybe an event label that you had. As they come through, easy for me to spell. There we go, event label. And then contains whatever. Now, the other cool thing is you can do custom dimensions back here. So if you're customizing your Google Analytics, for those of you who want to learn that, Win Google Analytics Advanced Customization is back there. If you're a Win member, Win Monthly Pass member, or Academy member, you've got access to both of those. And then but this is the idea of funnels. We also have Win funnel tracking, by the way. So if you want to learn how to build these and import them into Google Data Studio and build a funnel, what's cool about this is that you can use events as well as pages, right? So you can really use a lot of different custom things. It's any hit in Google Analytics you can use here. So page view hits, event hits, e-commerce hits, like all that stuff can come through into segments. So really, really useful trick using Google segments. And that, of course, brings us to a close. So what was your one thing with this? Did you have that idea of, okay, I didn't even know, I just been using built-in segments and didn't realize that there might be some drawbacks to those because they're so easy to get started with, which is great. I think it's super important to have built-in segments, to have those system segments because it's easy to get started and start using them. But very quickly, get off of them because they are a little black box, right? They kind of give you a hint as to how they're working, but it's just not enough to explain things to your boss when they come to you and say, why are these two things different? And you're like, I don't know. Like, and that's horrible. You don't want to really have that there. So that's the main thing that you're trying to look for. Now, the next thing that we want to focus on, the next thing, you might be the one thing, is the fact that you can build your own segments. But remember, you've got those wizards, but maybe they're not so great. Maybe you want to pull it back and actually do, instead of the wizards, you want to actually use the building the conditions, and in the advanced section, the conditions, which are not that hard. There's just a few pieces back there, but you define them, you control them, and then, of course, you can use sequences for funnels and things like that. All right, now if you want to learn this stuff, I mentioned these a couple of places, the measure.tips/courses. I do want to show you where those are at. Just for those of you who are already members, you go to Win Courses, the two courses we talked about. In this particular Win, again, Win Monthly Pass members and Academy members both can access this. So you'll come into Win Google Analytics Advanced Customization if you want to learn about doing the custom dimensions and that sort of stuff. And then otherwise, you can come into, where was it? Win Funnel Tracking right here. So Win Funnel Tracking is right here under the reporting wins, and that's where you can set up, it'll show you how to set up sequences and everything else that come through. So with that, we will go ahead and move on. If you want to learn more about that, if you're already not a member, measure.tips/courses will give you more information on those programs. And of course, if you want to learn more about the Academy, the big difference with the Academy, Win Monthly Pass, you get all those courses you just saw. The Academy, you get all those courses, plus you get 4 logins for your team, plus you get online group coaching, plus you get workshop library. All these workshops, is like 200 workshops just like this that are deep dives into very specific areas of measurement. So you can check those out as well. And of course, if you are an Academy member, thank you for watching this. We look forward to seeing you on the next Office Hours. Remember, Office Hours, Academy member, Office Hours, member Q&A every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Look forward to seeing you there. Finally, the next week's topic for the next workshop is a strategy session. So we're going to be talking about tools every measurement marketer should be using. So all the different extensions and fun little doohickeys and switches that make this job 1,000 times easier. We're going to cover those for those of you who are strategists so that you can be aware of them, so that you can work with your implementation teams. And of course, if you're the one doing the implementation, you'll love this. But more importantly, just so you're aware of things, so you know what your implementers should be using, so you know what's possible. So when you're going back to your teams, you can ask better quality questions of them and get more done in your own measurement. Speaking of, now, if you are not yet a Workshop Wednesday member, if you're not part of Workshop Wednesday yet, Again, we're making this particular video public. We do not make all the workshops public, though. In fact, that one I don't believe we will. So if you want to make sure that you have access to all of these, you need to be part of Workshop Wednesday, which is this little thing right here. So we've got Workshop Wednesdays every week, rotate a new workshop. You have access to it for the entire week. You can watch it at your leisure, and then it's just replaced out with the next workshop for that week. So you've got access to everything you want. You also have, there's additional tools that you can get access to, like Traffic Tracking Toolkit, figuring out things about UTMs and how to tag stuff. There's a little audit report card back there for analytics. There's a little cookbook for Google Tag Manager if you're using that. Regex Heroes, if you want to learn more about Regex, we mentioned that earlier on as well. How to set up goals and more. There's a lot of stuff that we've got back there in our toolbox. So what we did is we actually made all of this stuff. We actually created a membership and we just made this free. So this is our free level membership. You get all of this stuff. So you get the Workshop Wednesday workshops. You get all of the different tools. And so again, completely free. If you're interested in doing that and if you're not yet a free Toolbox member, just go to measure.tips/WW and at least get that free Toolbox membership. So you can get that set up and you'll get access to every single workshop and every single tool, both new and future tools as we have them. All right, you've just watched Beyond Basics, how to use segments in Google Analytics. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.